second page in our math notebook. We are ready to take our notes for the day. So, my camera got bumped a little bit. All right, so here is our title or our heading and today's date. Let's see if that helps. Second, I'll adjust here. There we go. All right, so 2.4, add decimals, and today's date of 10/26/20. So like I was telling you guys this morning, we're adding decimals today, and you might be thinking in your head, oh my gosh, this is going to be super hard because they aren't whole numbers. Well, I'm going to tell you that adding decimals is very similar to adding whole numbers. There's just one thing you need to make sure when you're stacking them on top of each other to add, and that's what we're going to be practicing today. Otherwise, it's just like adding whole numbers. Please put a thumbs up on your desk when you are done writing your heading and today's date.
Can you play the song called Boundary?
We're not worried about that right now. Okay. Can you? All right. Is there anyone else who needs more time to get this written down? Okay. So we are going to go right into steps. Right into steps for adding decimals. So our first step 1, is line them up. So when I say that, what I'm meaning, we're lining up the decimals in our numbers. Yes. And you'll notice I circled the decimals lined up in orange. I also would like you to circle them. It doesn't have to be in orange, of course, but I would like you to circle them. So whenever we add decimals, we're stacking them to add them, like whole numbers, but the first step is to line up the decimals. Put a thumbs up on your desk and you have this written down. Like line them up. But since it's kind of like a catchy phrase, you can use that. Line them up. Yeah, I mean, that helps you remember, sure. Yep, so step 1, line them up. And you can notice, I'm sure you notice, that even though this top number, 1 4/10, has 2 digits, and the bottom number, 6 75/100, has 3 digits, because I lined up the decimals, my 4 is not all the way to the right. We need to make sure the decimals are lined up. Why do you think we need to make sure the decimals are lined up, fifth grade? What do you think? Layla, why? You can get your numbers mixed up, and we need to make sure we're adding what? Zoe? Yeah, we need to make sure we're adding the right numbers. Chanel? Yes, exactly. We need to make sure we're adding up the same place values together. Because on this first number, even though the 4 is the digit all the way to the right, it's only in the 10th place. Whereas in the second number, our 5, that's in the 100th place. We need to make sure we're adding up the numbers in the same places. So that's why when we line up our decimals, it automatically makes sure that our numbers are written the way that they're supposed to. They're lined up with the same place values. Yeah, kind of. All right, I see a few people getting down that second problem. I'll give you another moment. So step 1, line them up. Lining up those decimals. Is there anyone who needs more time with this one? All right, then we're going to go on to step 2. Let's scoot this up a little bit. Step 2, drop it down. So when we do that, before you even start to add anything, you drop that decimal straight down. That way you do not forget it in your answer. I can't tell you how many times I've had students, they line up the decimals beautifully, they add correctly, but then when it comes to their answer, they forget the decimal point. So by dropping it down right away, that ensures that you are remembering to put the decimal point in your answer, and it goes straight down. You don't move it anywhere, it goes straight down. Put a thumbs up on your desk and you have step 2 written down. Jackie, did you get step 2 written down? Did you get step 2 written down? Put a thumbs up on your desk and you have step 2 written down. So the first 2 steps to adding decimals is all about the decimal point. In the first step, we're lining up the decimal points. In the second step, we're dropping down the decimal point into where our answer will go. Well, I caught it. See a few people finishing up that second problem. Are we ready to move on to the third step? Anyone who needs me to stay on the second step?
No.
All right. So then, our third step is to fill them in. So, as I'm sure you noticed, when we lined up those lined up our numbers, we had some spaces. So there was a space after the 4 and a space after the 1. So any of those spaces, top or bottom number, we're putting zeros. So actually what I can do is down here, I forgot a 0. Before the 7, put another 0. Then once you've filled them in, you can go ahead and solve. And now that we've dropped down our decimal point, we lined it up, we dropped down the decimal point and we filled in with the zeros. Now it's the exact same as adding whole numbers. So you can go ahead and solve. And then I'll solve it and we'll see if we get the same answer. Put a thumbs up on your desk when you have solved. You've added the zeros or filled them in and you have solved. It's just like adding whole numbers. Make sure you're in your seat.
Have you figured out with Miss Roach yet?
She hasn't emailed me back, so I'm going to send her an email today. Okay. Thank you for checking, Jeff.
You know what I think I might have taken some of them in 4th grade. I think I have.
So then you might need to read a different book, right?
But I'm just gonna finish that dogman one first.
Okay. Ready to rock? Ready to rock? Is there anyone who needs more time? Okay, let's look at it together, 5th grade. I will do, let's see, I'll do it in green, so it stands out. So, books away, anything else you're working on should be set aside. Let's look to see if we get the same answer. So, because we lined up our decimals, we dropped the decimal point down so that it's already where our answer is going to be, and we filled in the open spaces with zeros. Now it's just like adding whole numbers. So 0, we start from the right, work to the left like usual. 0 plus 5 is 5. 4 plus 7 is 11. Yep. Carry the 1, bring down the second one. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So 8 and 15 hundredths is my answer. So I circled it. Then the second one, same thing. Work from the right to the left. 0 plus 5 is 5. 9 plus 1 is 10. 7 plus 5 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. Carry the 1, bring down the 3. 1 plus 0 is 1. Plus 1 is 2. 23 and 5 hundredths. Okay, how many of you is this easier than you thought it was going to be? Okay, eyes on me for a second. The key, lining up the decimals and dropping the decimal point down. If you ever forget to line up your decimal points, you could be adding incorrectly because you are adding digits in different place values. So you could get a completely different answer. So make sure you're always lining them up. You're always dropping the decimal point straight down and filling in those spaces with zeros. So now you have 3 practice problems. And you will notice the third one, you have more than 1 or more than 2 numbers you're adding. So you are lining up decimal points. Now, on my last one, do you guys notice how there is a whole number? You notice how 45 is a whole number? Where is the imaginary decimal point in 45? Where is the imaginary decimal point in 45? Will? After 45. So, keep that in mind when you're lining up all the numbers in number 3. Okay. So you can go ahead and solve these when you are ready. Follow our 3 steps before solving. When you are done, either put a thumbs up on your desk or you can quietly read, write, or draw at your desk, and I'll know you're done. Go ahead. Ready to rock. All right, put your books or whatever else it is that you may be working on to the side. So close up your books, put them to the side, and let's take a look at these together. I know some of you are reading some really good books. It can be so hard to just stop reading, but please close up your books, set it to the side. All right, so number 1. Frankie and Yosius, we are done. Turn around. Thank you. Okay, so number 1. 1 and 33 hundredths plus 35 hundredths. My first step is to line up the decimals. So if I write my first number, 1.33, okay, use that piece of paper. Then I need to line up the decimal in my second number with the one in my first number. So I'll place my decimal. We have a 0 to the left of it and a 3.5 to the right of it. How many of you lined up your numbers this way? Awesome. Then I add my plus sign and my line. My second step is to drop down the decimal point, so it's already there waiting for me. And then step 3 is to fill them in. Now, 5th grade, do I have any spaces that need to be filled in for this first one? No, I don't. So then I go ahead and I add right to left like usual. So 5 plus 3 is 8. 3 plus 3 is 6. 1 plus 0 is 1. And then I'm going to circle my answer. So 1 and 68 hundredths. Raise your hand if you got this one correct. Raise your hand if you got this one correct. Awesome. Hands down. All right, moving on to my second one. So same steps. First one, I need to line them up. So I'm going to write my first number, 1 and 11 hundredths. Then for my second number, again, I need to line up the decimal point. So I'll put my decimal. To the left of it, I have a 0. And the right, an 8 and a 9. How many of you lined up your numbers this way as well? Awesome. My second step then, drop down the decimal point. Do I have any spaces that need to be filled here? No, I do not. So then I can solve. 9 plus 1 is 10. So carry the 1, bring down the 0. 8 plus 1 is 9. Plus 1 is 10. Carry the 1, bring down the 0. 1 plus 1 plus 0 is 2. So in my answer, I have 2 and 0 hundredths, which is the same as the whole number 2. How many of you got 2 or 2.0 or 2.00 as your answer? Awesome. Hands down. And finally, we have number 3. And I know that number 3 was a little tricky. So, are there questions on 1 or 2? Okay. Then we have number 3. A little trickier. So, again, I'm going to write my first number. 4 and 56 hundredths. Then I'm going to write my second number, making sure the decimals line up. So if I place my decimal, to the left of the decimal, there's a 2. To the right of the decimal, I have a 3, 1. So I'm going to write my 3 and my 1. Then, before we started, I asked you to think about, with a whole number, where the imaginary decimal is. Well, if we think about it, in a whole number, or at least in this whole number, we have the tens place and the ones place. Well, we know the decimal is always directly to the right of that ones place. So with my green pen, I'm going to put a decimal there to remind myself where the decimal goes in a whole number, so that when I line it up, I make sure I line it up correctly. So I'll put my decimal. Before the decimal, I have a 4 and a 5. So my 4 should actually be out over here, and the 5 should line up with the 4 and the 2 from the other numbers because they're all in the ones place. Other questions? Jack L., what's your question? Oh, okay. Will, what's your question?
I just added 4, 56 I just added that.
Okay, so how many of you added the first 2 numbers first, then added the 45 after? That works. Did you make sure you lined up your decimal, though, when you added the second time? Okay, that definitely works. So you could stack all 3, or if it's easier for you to kind of wrap your head around adding the first 2 numbers first, getting that answer, then adding the third number, that's totally okay. I'm going to add all 3 together. So, second step, drop down my decimal. In 5th grade, do I have open spaces on this one? I certainly do. So I'm going to put zeros in those open spaces. Awesome. Make sure they're all filled. They are. So 6 plus 1 plus 0 gets me 7. 5 plus 3 plus 0 gets me 8. 4 plus 2 gets me 6. Plus 5 gets me 11. So I carry the 1, bring down the 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. 51 and 87 hundredths is my answer. Raise your hand if you got the same answer as me. Raise your hand if you got the same answer as me. Okay. Are there questions on number 3? Do you guys think you'll be able to remember on your homework that when there is a whole number, the decimal is always directly to the right of the ones place? Okay. Let's go ahead and get out our workbooks. We're going to circle our numbers for homework. Let me grab my clipboard. So, in our workbook, we are opening to page 81. Oh, your workbook. All right, page 81 in our workbooks. That's what we are opening to. All right, so, Jack, are you opening your workbook? Page 81. All right, so 81 and 82 for homework. You are circling number 5, number 8, number 11, number 12, and number 17. And I will say it again. We're on page 81 and 82. You are circling number 5, number 8, number 11, number 12, and number 17. Now you can go ahead and get started on your homework. I will turn on work music. What should our volume level be during work time, 5th grade? It should be a 0. Awesome job today. Thank you.